What's up, Zombie Talk 123 here today, reporting for Sports Insight. Great channel, check them out. Good and somewhat surprising deal here. As reported earlier, it seemed like the Marlins made the most sense for a team like Carlos Zambrano, maybe a team like the Royals that are in need for that starting pitcher. Well, Carlos Zambrano, he's had tantrums, he's had a lot of behavior problems in this dugout, in the clubhouse. And really, when he was, I believe it was disqualified last year, that was the term, yeah, for like a month or whatever, the team, it sounded like the players were kind of happy to get him out of the clubhouse. He doesn't seem great in the clubhouse, and I think the way that the Cubs look at this is, we're not going to win next year with Zambrano or without him. And the fact that we have to pay him $18 million is, yes, it's ridiculous. But we need to find a team out there that's going to give us some young pitching depth. Not we're not going to get a big prospect for this guy. It's Carlos Zambrano. He's had, some bad history in the past year or two, and he just hasn't been the same Carlos Zambrano. Look at his numbers last year, ERA, everything about him last year was not the same Carlos Zambrano that we've seen in the years before. So can he turn it around in 2012? That's a question that will be answered. The things that I like about this deal for the Cubs, number one, you're getting his bad vibes out of the clubhouse, and I think that will be a good thing, a good influence on some of these young guys, is getting these guys out of there. You get Ramos Ramirez, and yes, he was big offensive for the Cubs, but watching him last year, I'm not a Cubs fan, but they broadcast a lot of Cub games in my area, and really, his lack of effort on defense at times, were absolutely unbelievable. He would just knock around balls. He obviously wouldn't care. He would be lazy on some ground balls. He is a really good fielder, and he can be, but at times he was very lazy, and that affected Starling Castro, and you started seeing bad habits develop. You don't want to see that. So I think getting those guys, yes, Ramos Ramirez was great offensively for them, but, injured a lot, and that defensive problems, I think, will be a good thing to get off the team. So I do like this deal for the Cubs for many reasons. Number one, Carlos Zambrano getting the tantrums, getting the attitude out of the clubhouse, I think it can't be a really bad thing. And then you look at his numbers have obviously been declining. You're going to pay him a lot of money no matter if you trade him or not. No team is going to say, I'll pay him $10 million of his salary. You know what I mean? And this is not going to be a salary relief deal unless you could find the right team, which you probably won't find a team that will maybe pay him $6 million at most. But I think for the Marlins, paying him $2.5 million of salary and getting a decent 4/5 starter from the Marlins that is definitely expendable, arbitration eligible, and will be a relatively cheap option for the next few years. Young pitcher there, I think is a very good thing for the Cubs. The thing that they lacked is rotation depth. Behind Andrew Cashner, they really dropped off. So you look at these guys now, they bring in Travis Wood, and now Chris Volstad. Now let's look at him. He's 6'8", right-hander, was a first-round draft pick in the past. And you look at his numbers, if you look deeply in him, you see a real nice ground ball rate. And that's part of the reason why his strikeout rates are very low. But the problem is he gives up a lot of home runs, and he really does struggle against left-handers. So, yes, there's definitely some negatives to Chris Volstad. He's really one of the most decent pitchers that have been out there. His career numbers show a 4.5 ERA, right around that. And so, again, he's 25 years old. He's had some potential. He's a ground ball type pitcher, but really, he hasn't put it together. At most, he's a 4th, 5th starter, but at the time, a 25-year-old who could develop into something a little better, I think is exactly what the Cubs need. They need 4th, 5th ceiling type starters, to add some depth. He joins Travis Wood, Andrew Cashner, fighting for spots in this rotation for next year. I think he will be in it, though. Right now, it would seem to me that him, Andrew Cashner, and Travis Wood, I think Travis Wood and Chris Volstad are pretty much guaranteed in the rotation right now. But I think Andrew Cashner is obviously going to be fighting for a spot in the future. But, you look at for the Marlins, they're losing a guy like Chris Volstad, who actually, if I am right here, I believe he was almost a non-tender candidate earlier this year. Just such decent numbers that really the Marlins don't have really much room for him. Now, what this deal does for the Marlins now is the rotation is set. Not only have they acquired Mark Burley, and now Zambrano, but they already have a very solid 3 outside of them in Josh Johnson, Anibal Sanchez, and Ricky Nolasco. So really, you look at this team, they've acquired Mark Burley, they went after C.J. Wilson. C.J. Wilson reportedly went to the Angels for less money, but, he loves it in L.A. You heard him in the interview, he was absolutely so excited to be there. The Marlins really have gone after most free agents this year, going after Albert Pujols, going after obviously C.J. Wilson and Mark Burley and Jose Reyes, and signing him and Heath Bell. So what they've done this offseason is not only improve the relief, which they have Heath Bell, and they might have not Leo Nunez, but I believe it was like Jose something was his actual name. If he comes back, they'll still have him. So Heath Bell is a great add in the bullpen, adds a lot of fan support and a lot of fan buzz there. Then of course they get Jose Reyes. Hanley Ramirez is still not 100% behind the whole idea of going to third, but I think at the end he will either be traded or go to third. There's not many other options for him. I think he will at least start the year in third. We'll see what happens. And then you look at them signing Mark Burley is that 1-2 starter, perfect for them. And then now trading for Carlos Zambrano. I think they're all pretty good moves for the Marlins, heading in the right direction. Now you look at the projected rotation. Pretty much it's a set rotation now of Josh Johnson, Mark Burley, Anibal Sanchez, a young pitcher who I believe is actually going to be a free agent next year. So the Marlins definitely extension candidate, need to extend him. He put up great numbers last year, has a ton of potential, and I think he'll have a great year in 2012. Ricky Nolasco, he signed a 3-year deal. I believe it was either last year or the year before, like $15 million or something like that. And he really has been one of the most mediocre pitchers in the past. I mean, he was supposed to be really good when he came in. They signed him to an extension, and he really has just been really mediocre. So he's a solid number 4 starter in this rotation, which is very good. And now you have Carlos Zambrano as a 5th starter. So, obviously the Marlins improving, not having to spend a ton of money, not having to give up top prospects, but definitely improving in that 5th spot over Chris Volstad. They'd rather have Carlos Zambrano. Maybe he would get along with Ozzie Guillen more, maybe to excite the fans more. Maybe they think that he'll have a really good 2012. So obviously at the price that they're paying for him, there's not too much risk here. You're giving up Chris Volstad, who really doesn't fit in your future plans unless he has a great 2012. He's a guy who could be non-tendered in the future. He's a guy who has very little trade value in some senses. But for a team like the Cubs, I think he has somewhat of a high trade value just because they are looking for depth and they paid the right price for him and Carlos Zambrano. Overall, I think this is a great trade for both teams. Thanks for watching again. This is Zombie Talk 1, 2, 3.